Okay, what if I told you that something you can barely even see, I mean, something as basic as the air you breathe, is actually a bigger threat to global health now than tobacco? That it was linked to something like over 8 million deaths in just 2021 alone. Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today our mission is, well, it's really to unpack these deep, often invisible links between the air all around you and your total well-being. And I really mean total well-being here. Your physical health, sure, but also your mental state, even maybe your spirit, Yeah. We're looking at how your environment literally shapes your day-to-day life and your long-term health in ways maybe you haven't thought much about.
That's exactly right. And for this deep dive, we've really dug into some very important recent reports, authoritative stuff. There's a special report on global air pollution exposure and its health effects. And it puts a really significant focus on kids' health, plus other studies looking at traffic pollution and even the role of green spaces in cities, which is surprisingly important.
Right, getting some objective data on this.
Exactly, high-quality data to get a real handle on just how big this often overlooked issue is.
And like you said, this isn't just about, smoggy cities far away or some abstract global numbers. This is about the air in your home right now, the air on your commute, in your community. It affects you directly every single day. So where do we start? What's the kind of the big picture we need to grasp?
The big picture, honestly, is that we're dealing with what you could call an invisible epidemic. The statistics are, frankly, startling. Air pollution is now the second leading risk factor for early death worldwide.
Second? Wow. What's number one?
Only high blood pressure is higher. And think about this. Air pollution now outranks tobacco as a leading cause of death and disability globally.
That really reframes it, doesn't it? Putting it ahead of smoking. When you say invisible epidemic, just how widespread are we talking?
It's incredibly pervasive. You mentioned the 8 million deaths in 2021. It was actually 8.1 million linked to air pollution.
Yeah.
But maybe even more sobering. Globally, something like 99% of the world's population is breathing harmful levels of PM 2.5.
99%.
99%. We'll break down PM 2.5 in a sec, but yeah, almost everyone, everywhere, is breathing air that poses some level of risk.
And beyond the terrible human cost, there's a huge economic side to this too, right? This isn't just personal tragedies, it's dragging down economies.
Oh, absolutely. The health impacts, they estimate, cost around US $4.4 trillion every year.
Trillion. With a T.
With a T. And that's not just some abstract figure. It hits productivity, people missing work. It puts enormous strain on healthcare systems. It's like this constant hidden tax on our well-being, on our prosperity.
Okay, so the scale is massive.
Yeah.
Let's get into the specifics then. What are these invisible things floating around? What are the main pollutants we should know about?
Yeah, let's pull back the curtain. The three main ones we really focus on are fine particulate matter, that's PM 2.5, then nitrogen dioxide, or NO2, and ground-level ozone, O3. So starting with PM 2.5, what we mean here are airborne particles that are less than 2.5 micrometers across, which is tiny. To give you a sense, it's less than 1/30th the width of a single human hair.
Wow. So incredibly small. And I guess because they're so small, they can get really deep into our bodies. Where do they mostly come from?
Precisely. Their size is the key danger. They get deep into your lungs, even into your bloodstream. And the sources are everywhere, really. Vehicles, burning fuel at home for cooking or heating, coal power plants, industry, burning waste, wildfires, even just windblown dust. It's really common.
Lots of sources.
Yeah. And it's important to make a distinction, too, between ambient PM 2.5, that's the outdoor stuff, and what we call household air pollution, or HAP. That comes from things like burning solid fuels, like wood or coal, indoors for cooking.
Right.
And the data shows about 3.6 billion people worldwide are still exposed to that household air pollution.
3.6 billion. That's almost half the planet cooking with stuff that pollutes their homes. Is the outdoor PM 2.5 exposure similar everywhere, or are some places worse off?
No, there are definitely big disparities. People in low and middle income countries generally face 1.3 to 4 times higher levels of this outdoor PM 2.5 compared to high income countries.
Okay.
The really high exposures tend to be in South Asia, Africa, and the Middle East. And here's a key thing about PM 2.5. Long-term exposure to it is the single most consistent predictor of poor health outcomes. It's kind of the benchmark pollutant for health impacts.
Got it. That's a crucial point. Okay, next up was nitrogen dioxide, NO2. How's that different? Sources?
Right, NO2, it's different. It's a gas. It mainly comes from burning fuel, again, vehicles are a big one, but also power plants, industrial sites. It's often used as a key sign of traffic pollution, especially in cities.
So if you're stuck in city traffic, you're probably breathing a lot of NO2.
Very likely, yes. And interestingly, unlike PM2.5, some of the highest NO2 levels are actually seen in some high-income countries. Think places like Singapore, Japan, Canada, also some spots in the Middle East like Bahrain and Qatar.
Huh, okay. And the health link?
It's strongly linked to asthma, other respiratory issues. Even short bursts can irritate your airways, make existing conditions like asthma worse, and make you more vulnerable to infections. Longer term, it can actually impair how kids' lungs develop and make allergies worse. Plus, it helps form other pollutants too.
Okay, so it's nasty stuff. And the third one was ground level ozone, O3. You said this one's formed differently.
That's right. Ozone isn't pumped out directly from a car or a factory. It forms in the atmosphere from chemical reactions. Basically, nitrogen oxides, like the NO2 we just talked about, and other chemicals called VOCs react together in sunlight.
Sunlight is key then.
Sunlight and heat. And this is where we get something called the climate penalty. Warmer temperatures actually speed up ozone formation.
Oh, great. So heat waves mean more ozone.
Exactly. You often see ozone pollution spike during heat waves. It's a compounding problem. And to make it worse, ozone itself is a greenhouse gas. So it's bad for breathing, and it contributes to climate change.
A double whammy. What about its direct health impacts, and are levels going up or down?
Health-wise, it's linked to higher risks for respiratory problems, both acute and chronic, especially COPD. But it also hits agriculture. It can damage crops and reduce yields, which is a threat to food security.
Really? Like how much?
Well, one estimate suggests Europe could lose something like 16.8 million metric tons of wheat by 2050 just because of ozone damage.
Wow.
And trend-wise, ozone levels today are thought to be maybe 30 to 70% higher than a century ago, and high exposure is on the rise in many parts of the world. India, Nigeria, Pakistan, Brazil, for example.
Okay, this is all pretty sobering, but the deep dive really emphasized one group in particular, children. It seems air pollution hits them uniquely hard. What did the report say there?
Yes, this is a really urgent and frankly heart-wrenching part of the story. Air pollution was the second leading risk factor for death among children under 5 in 2021, only malnutrition ranked higher.
Second only to malnutrition.
Yeah. We're talking about 709,000 deaths of children under 5 linked to air pollution in that 1 year. And get this, over 500,000 of those, more than 500,000, were specifically due to household air pollution, from cooking fires, basically.
Over 500,000 kids? That's just devastating. Why are they so much more vulnerable? What's different about children?
Well, kids aren't just miniature adults, physiologically speaking. They breathe faster than adults, often through their mouths, so they actually inhale more air relative to their body weight.
Okay, that makes sense.
They also tend to spend more time playing outdoors, and they're shorter, so they're closer to the ground, where things like vehicle exhaust and dust are more concentrated.
Right near the tailpipes.
Exactly. And maybe most critically, their bodies are still developing their lungs, their brains, their immune systems. Everything is still under construction. And because their airways are smaller, any inflammation caused by pollutants blocks things up proportionally more than it would in an adult. The impacts during this critical window can really set the stage for lifelong problems.
Can we break that down by age? What about the very beginning, neonatal health, the first month of life?
Yeah, for newborns, so from birth to about 27 days old, exposure in the womb is a major factor. It increases the risk of low birth weight and being born preterm. And preterm birth is actually the leading cause of death for kids under 5 globally.
Right.
The data showed 572,000 newborn deaths in 2021 were linked to air pollution, and 72% of those were from household air pollution. In parts of South Asia and Africa, air pollution is blamed for almost 30%, nearly a third of all deaths in the first month of life. It's a staggering burden right from birth.
Just unbelievable. And what about as they get a bit older, say, into infancy and early childhood, up to age 5?
Well, moving into the under 5 age group, air pollution is a major contributor to things like pneumonia and other lower respiratory infections. And those infections are the leading cause of death for this age group overall.
So it makes them more likely to get sick and less able to fight it off.
Precisely. In some countries in Africa and Asia, the reports found that over 40% of all deaths from these lower respiratory infections in children under 5 are attributed to air pollution. The link is direct and deadly.
And then there's asthma. For older kids, maybe 5 to 14. You mentioned NO2 earlier being linked to that.
Yes, NO2 from traffic is consistently linked to kids developing asthma. Exposure can make their symptoms worse, trigger serious attacks, and sadly, there's a very real, very tragic example of this, Ella Kissi-Debra in London.
I think I remember hearing about her case.
Yeah, she died after a severe asthma attack when she was just 9 years old. And in a landmark ruling, she actually became the first person in the world to have air pollution officially listed as a cause of death on her death certificate.
Wow.
Her story is just such a stark personal reminder of the lethal potential of the air we breathe, especially for vulnerable children.
It really brings it home. Okay, so we've talked a lot about lungs and breathing, but does air pollution affect other parts of our health and well-being, maybe in ways that are less obvious?
Absolutely. The impacts go far beyond just the lungs. Air pollution is a major driver of what we call non-communicable diseases in adults and CDs. Things like heart disease, stroke, lung cancer. Outdoor air pollution is officially classified as carcinogenic, by the way, COPD, and even type 2 diabetes.
So the big chronic killers.
Exactly. And these NCDs actually account for almost 90% of the total disease burden from air pollution. So it's hitting nearly every major system in the body.
That's a much broader reach than I think most people realize. Were there any other, maybe more surprising links that came up in the reports?
Yes, definitely some unexpected ones. For instance, long-term exposure to that household PM2.5 from cooking smoke has been linked to cataracts.
Cataracts in the eyes.
In the eyes, yeah. They estimated it contributed to nearly 2 million years lived with disability in 2021 alone. That impacts vision, obviously, but also productivity, quality of life. And researchers are also looking into possible links with things like tuberculosis, chronic kidney disease, even neurodegenerative diseases like Alzheimer's or Parkinson's. It feels like we're still uncovering the full extent of the damage.
And this brings us back to that idea you mentioned at the start about holistic well-being impacting our psychological state, our spirit. How does air quality play into that?
This is such a critical connection. While polluted air clearly harms our physical health and likely our cognitive health too, the flip side is that cleaner air has positive benefits, and particularly solutions like creating more urban green spaces, parks, trees, green roofs. These don't just clean the air.
Right, they do more.
They do much more. Studies show they actively reduce stress, anxiety, and depression. They promote mental and psychological well-being. So it really highlights how our environment touches everything, not just our bodies, but our minds, our sense of calm, our ability to connect with nature and each other. Environmental health truly is mental health.
That's a really powerful way to frame it.
Yeah.
Okay, so after all this heavy news, is there any good news? Are we actually making any headway against this?
Yes. Absolutely. There is good news, and it's really important to talk about that too. There's genuine progress. Remember those devastating numbers for children under 5?
Yes.
Well, the global burden of disease for that age group linked to air pollution has actually dropped by 35% since 2000.
Oh, wow. That's significant.
It is, and it's largely because of reductions in household air pollution, that cooking smoke issue. Globally, the death rate from household air pollution, when you adjust for age, has fallen by a massive 61% since the year 2000.
61%. That's huge progress.
It really is. And even for ambient outdoor PM2.5, many regions are seeing levels stabilize or even reduce. And high-income countries, because of sustained policies and better tech, are seeing rapid drops in NO2 exposure. So, yes, progress is definitely possible when we act.
That's incredibly encouraging to hear.
Mm-hmm.
So what are the kinds of strategies, the real-world things that are making this difference?
Well, a big one, tied to that household air pollution progress, is simply improving access to clean energy for cooking and heating. Things like LPG gas or cleaner burning, more efficient cook stoves.
Simple solutions, relatively speaking.
Simple, but incredibly impactful. There are groups like the Africa Clean Cooking Consortium pushing this. We saw examples like UNICEF working in Nepal, getting cleaner eco-cook stoves to nearly 10,000 households. That has immediate health benefits, especially for women and children who spend the most time near the fire.
And what about those green spaces we just talked about? How exactly do they help clean the air beyond just making us feel better?
Right. This is where solutions get really interesting and connect back to that holistic well-being. Urban green spaces, trees, shrubs, even green roofs or walls covered in plants, they literally capture particulate matter on their leaves and surfaces.
Like tiny filters.
Like tiny filters, exactly. And they also absorb gaseous pollutants like NO2 and ozone directly. Plus, they cool the surrounding air through shade and evaporation. And remember, cooler air helps reduce ozone formation.
Breaking that climate penalty cycle.
Exactly. There was a study showing urban forests in the U.S. remove something like 711,000 metric tons of air pollution in a year. But beyond the air cleaning, these spaces are vital public health assets. They encourage walking, exercise, they reduce stress, they bring communities together. It's that vital connection to nature that boosts our mental and spiritual health.
So it's not just removing the bad, it's actively adding the good. What about the bigger picture policy, monitoring?
Crucial. You need good air quality monitoring so people know what they're breathing and policymakers have data to act on. Transparency is key. Countries like Senegal, South Africa, Rwanda have been building up monitoring networks and making that data public, which is great. And then you need policy action based on that data. The EU, for example, just adopted stricter air quality rules. They're aiming for a 55% cut in premature deaths from PM2.5 by 2030, and basically aiming for levels that don't harm health by 2050, getting much closer to WHO guidelines. Those are serious goals.
And it feels like a lot of these solutions, like cleaner energy or even greener cities, also help with climate change, right? It seems like a win-win.
It absolutely is.
Yeah.
Many of the sources are the same: burning fossil fuels, burning biomass. These release both air pollutants and greenhouse gases.
So tackling one helps the other.
Precisely. When you invest in solutions that cut air pollution, like shifting to renewables, improving energy efficiency, promoting public transport, planting trees, you almost always get climate benefits too. It shows how linked these crises are and how integrated solutions can give us multiple wins for health and the planet.
Okay, so wrapping this up, we've taken a real deep dive into how profoundly, how intimately air quality shapes our lives. From literally the first breath a baby takes all the way through to our long-term health and well-being as adults. It really hammers home that clean, healthy air shouldn't be a luxury. It feels like a basic human right.
I think that's exactly the takeaway. And while air pollution is still this enormous global challenge, especially for the most vulnerable people, the progress we've seen, the solutions we know work, they show that a healthier environment is achievable. But it takes, sustained effort, collective action, strong policies that are actually enforced, community involvement. It's really a fight not just for cleaner air, but ultimately for healthier, longer, more fulfilling lives for everyone.
So here's a final thought to leave you with. Considering just how deeply the air around us impacts every single part of our being, physical, mental, maybe even spiritual, how might really understanding this invisible force change the way you think about your own daily choices and maybe the future you want for your community. We really encourage you to keep exploring how you can maybe contribute to and definitely benefit from cleaner air right where you live.